Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy here for the Daily Blub, and it appears that AI is so obviously useful that Microsoft has to coerce their own engineers to use the AI products. Nothing says the vitality of a technology or concept like a company actually trying to force their own employees to use their product or service. Now, just to understand what my bias is, I do not believe that AI is actually AI. LLMs, multimodal models, all these things are actually intelligent, but they are impressive. Do not get me wrong. I am very impressed with these products and technology. But one of the things I've been arguing for a little while now is that the actual use cases are probably not nearly as extensive as people think they are, right? There's this concept, this idea that that basically these AI systems are going to run all of your back-end services, and it's just going to automatically happen. And one of the things that I've talked about for a while is I just don't believe that's really the case. When you look at electricity consumption, when you look at hardware resource utilization, the whole nine yards, it's much better to have a database with a well thought out SQL statement than trying to run everything through LLMs, right? That's one of the big things to consider is the architecture of your systems and how the architecture of your systems allows you to facilitate solving problems, and it does so within the resources and requirements of your organization. Right, I talked about this a lot, especially things such as like data storage, right? So if you're going to be creating a competitor to YouTube, do you put all your videos up on AWS? Do you put your videos into a co-location facility? Basically, you build your own rack of servers, you store your videos there, right? There's cost-benefit analysis to doing that type of thing. One of the things that I've argued for a while is that you really need to be thinking about your architecture when you're designing your systems, and that's one of the issues I come to with a lot of this AI stuff is I just don't think it's good for a lot of the situations where people are going to be building out their infrastructure. But anyways, one of the curious things that comes up is what happens when all of these technology companies really need the next iPhone moment. Right? That's one of the arguments I've been having for a while now, is that these tech companies need the next iPhone moment. They need the next DSL moment. They need the next laptop moment, right? These are moments in the technology, our technological history where a product came out and everybody wanted that particular product. And so that really boosted, a huge number of companies and made lots and lots of people lots of money. The issue is since maybe the iPad moment, we haven't had a lot of those big things come down the pike that people actually, in fact, want at scale, right? Blockchain, right? For a long time, everything was about blockchain. The problem was nobody cared about blockchain because blockchain is a database type that's good in about 0.1% of the situations. And so, right, blockchain, there are implementations, there are effective implementations of blockchain, but it's just not that significant. Meta, right? Going into the metaverse, the idea that everybody was going to be using VR or AR or any of this kind of horse crap, right? That wasn't being pushed by the average person. Most people didn't want this stuff. Most people, once they use this stuff, frankly, actually got nauseous using this stuff. This isn't what people wanted or needed, but that's not the important thing, right? Big tech needs people to want or need things at an iPhone scale. So anyways, Meta came and Meta's doing what the hell Meta's doing, right? The metaverse. Right? One of the issues we see now with this whole push with AI is not that it's not powerful, not that it's not significant. If you use VR systems, if you use AR systems, they are incredibly technologically impressive. There are some exceedingly good use cases for them. It's, again, not a huge number of use cases, right? There's a select number of use cases that these things work really well. What I feel like with AI is that AI is this moment for a lot of these big tech companies where they've been able to find, buzzwords to get people very excited about these new products that are coming out and to get that investment money and get that buy-in, right? Buy-in. We have this artificial intelligence. But what you notice is when you talk with people in the real world about LLMs and multimodal models and whatever, reasoning models, when you actually talk to them about what these models do, they just simply don't quite grasp what these systems actually do. Right, that runs into a bit of a problem. What you find, I think, is that most people don't really want a lot of these AI systems. That these AI systems will, at the end of the day, incrementally improve a lot of the products and services that we use, but it's going to be incremental improvement, right? It's going to go from hand coding or using Adobe, whatever, their web creator suite or whatever to create websites, to going and using React as a framework. Does the React framework make it a lot easier to build websites and mobile applications that are more understandable, easier for folks to use? Yes. Is anybody going to think that the entire world has changed because of React? Is anybody going to say React is more dangerous than nuclear weapons? No, that would be stupid. That would be stupid. So anyways, what I think we're starting to see where reality is hitting these AI projects, and the problem is that these big tech companies can't allow reality to seep into the narrative, and so we're going to start getting some weird issues. And that's where we got Microsoft. And so think about this. These are Microsoft employees. So you think about people that will understand the project, right? If your grandma doesn't understand AI, right, fine. You can make that argument, right? If somebody doesn't understand AI, you get the point. What happens when it's Microsoft engineers? Microsoft engineers. I'm not talking about some, hillbilly PHP developer up in the mountains of Asheville. He won't ever use AI because AI ain't godly. I ain't talking about him. I'm talking about Microsoft engineers. What happens when Microsoft engineers, they're just not that excited about AI? What does that say about this whole AI thing? And so Microsoft can't handle that. Microsoft is like, no, you don't understand what the narrative is. The narrative is AI is changing everything. Ergo, Microsoft is going to start forcing their engineers to use AI. It'll be curious. It'll be curious to see how this goes. This is from Business Insider. Microsoft pushes staff to use internal AI tools more and may consider this in reviews. Quote, using AI is no longer optional. Isn't that curious? AI is so wonderful and so amazing and so great. If you don't use AI, you're going to get punished. I feel like the cracks in the AI world may be starting to develop. Microsoft is asking some managers to evaluate employees based on how much they use AI internally, and the software giant is considering adding a metric related to this in its review process, Business Insider has learned. So this isn't about what is most effective for the developers. This isn't saying, okay, we want to look at our most successful developers, and we want to look at our least successful developers, and we want to figure out what these two different cohorts are doing differently, and then for the least successful developers, we want to measure them based off of how they compete with the highest. No, this is just saying, you will use AI tools. Do you know how much investment money we've gotten for AI? If you motherfuckers don't start using AI, this is going to be a real big issue, right? It's curious. Julia Lucon, president of Microsoft division responsible for developer tools such as AI coding service GitHub Copilot, recently sent an email instructing managers to evaluate employee performance based on their use of internal AI tools like this. Quote, AI is now a fundamental part of how we work, Lucon wrote. Just like collaboration, data-driven thinking, and effective communication, using AI is no longer optional. It's core to every role and every level. But is it? That's where I start getting worried. But is it? Right? If you're trying to force AI into every role and every level, and apparently your employees aren't using it, Is AI as effective as you think it is? Is this because AI is effective? Or because you need to pretend that AI is effective? Lucon told managers that AI, quote, should be part of your holistic reflections on an individual's performance and impact. So think about this, right? This isn't about high performers versus low performers. This is when you sit down with them, are they using AI or not? So could you be a high performer that does not use a lot of AI and literally get dinged for that because you're not going with the party line? Microsoft's performance requirements vary from team to team, and some are considering including a more formal metric about the use of internal AI tools in performance reviews for its next fiscal year, according to a person familiar with the situation. These changes are meant to address what Microsoft sees as lagging internal adoption of its Copilot AI services, according to another two people with knowledge of the plans. The company wants to increase usage broadly, but also wants the employees building these products to have a better understanding of the tools. So that is what is currently going on in Microsoft world. AI is so vital to tech employees that their own tech employees don't really want to use it. I just feel like this sums up 2025 so well. There are so many metaphors for 2025. Maybe this is one of the best, right? AI is this big, impressive, amazing thing that everybody's got to use. And even the Microsoft employees are like, but is it though? But is it? So it'll be curious to see how this moves forward. And it'll also be curious to see how this affects usage and adoption of artificial intelligence. And basically, are these large tech companies shaping how their employees do their own work in a non-effective way, right? Because, employees are humans. They're humans, right? And they've got mortgages. They've got mortgages, and they've got Little League, and they've got all this kind of stuff that they've got to deal with, right? And so one of the things is, especially in this current job market, where these technology companies are doing massive layoffs, tens of thousands of layoffs at a get-go, especially Microsoft, right? Microsoft just decided they're going to lay off like 3% of their staff, like 6,000 employees. Then they came out and said they're going to lay off even more Xbox people. And then I think they came out and said they're going to do buyouts, right? Microsoft is eviscerating their employee base. So the reality is, the fact of the matter is that the employees are bargaining or doing their jobs from a position of weakness. If you know the employer is specifically looking to dump people, how much are you going to push back on asininely stupid mandates? Are you going to push back on the asininely stupid mandates, or are you just going to do, sir, yes, sir, ma'am, yes, ma'am? So the issue becomes, right, like with these AI products, if you start telling employees that they are going to be measured off of these AI products. So here's a number of different things you're going to be measured off of. One of them is going to be the AI products. Are they going to start skewing their work to using the AI products even when it's not actually effective, even when it doesn't improve their performance, even when it might actually be a degradation to the work that they do, but they're going to start using those AI products regardless because they are now being measured off of that, right? This is not saying we want X number of lines of code written per day. We are then going to look at the high performers and the low performers, figure out what those two are doing differently, and then try to get the low performers up to the high performer level, right? This is simply saying, we want you to use these AI tools. So how many people are then going to start using AI tools, regardless of how it affects their job, their actual job performance, just so when they go in for those performance reviews, they can say they're using all the dumbass AI tools. And what does that do with Microsoft going forward? What does that do with people pushing back and possibly saying that these AI tools are not actually that valuable? These AI tools are not effective. These AI tools do not have a good ROI. Will the employees be comfortable enough being able to state that? And if they don't, what road is that taking Microsoft down? So anyways, that's what I think about. That's what I ponder. Don't get me wrong, LLMs, all this kind of stuff, really cool, really amazing technology. I just don't believe it's quite up or anywhere near up to the hype that people are giving it. And I'm curious where this is going to lead us. Oh, down the world for technology and all that kind of stuff. So what do you think about this? What do you think about Microsoft forcing their staff to use AI tools because their staff apparently doesn't really care about using the AI tool so much? What do you think this portends for the entire, AI world and all of that kind of stuff? Put your thoughts down below. Remember, it's the modern world of social media. Whether it's a thumb up, a thumb down, a great comment, or a horrible comment, it's all an interaction as far as YouTube is concerned. So with that, talk to y'all later.